Thanks, everybody. We'll begin with just a few brief opening remarks from Coach Smart, and then we'll go to your questions. Coach?
Yep. Our guys are coming off an off weekend and looking forward to preparing for Kentucky. We got to get a little bit of a jump start on some of our future opponents last week, as well as one day spent on preparation for Kentucky. Coach Stoops has done a tremendous job with their program. They play with great physical toughness across the offensive and defensive lines. They're really big and stout. Thought they did a really good job against us last year in terms of their defense, and their defense is one of the best in our conference. They've done an excellent job preparing for teams. We got a lot of respect for them in the kicking game, one of the best punters in the country, that's able to flip the field and do a lot with that. So with that, we'll open up on Kentucky.
All right, let's start with Anthony Dasher, and then we'll go to Chip Towers.
Hey, Coach. I just want. There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody muted me. Coach, just get your 4-game assessment of Zamir White, if I could, and also another update on Kenny McIntosh. I know he was kind of banged up against Alabama.
Yeah, won't know much on Kenny till I get back out there today. He was not able to practice last week in terms of rehab, but we're hopeful that he'll be able to go today and find out more. In terms of Zamir, I think his leadership qualities have taken a major step forward in terms of his energy, his enthusiasm, and just the way he prepares himself. When you look across our games, some of our best special teams plays have come about because of Zamir. Number one, he's the off returner on kickoff return. He does a tremendous job of selecting who to block to spring Kenny and Kier's on a lot of their returns. He blocked a punt. He's been one of our most consistent players on punt return in terms of making sure his man doesn't make the tackle and kind of controlling him. And then he's also been a backup on our punt unit. So I think Zamir has been very productive. He's in better condition. Fortunately, we're able to play a lot of backs, so he doesn't get probably as many carries, but that never seems to frustrate him. He does a really good job of knowing his role and helping our team.
Thanks.
Chip?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, Coach, just how would you describe the off week in terms of production? And I just wondered, this weekend, obviously your guys were off. But how much concern was there from you, about everybody staying safe and all that kind of stuff? Was it something that you addressed with them before you kind of turned them loose for the weekend?
Yeah, we talk about it every day. I mean, it's not a day that goes by that we don't finish the practice, the walk through, the session, whatever we're doing, that we don't address what they're going to be doing next in terms of time. They certainly had more time this weekend in terms of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a major concern for us because we don't control it. But I'll be honest with you, we don't control what they do when they leave our building anyway. So whether it's in Athens, at home, whatever decisions they're making or wherever they're traveling to, it's very concerning. And we try to educate them on what's going on in the NFL and across college football and how it impacts them and how it can impact our team. So we've tried to educate them in that regard, and hopefully they take heed in those warnings and understand it. In terms of off-week production, I don't really know a way to quantify production in an off week. I thought we had good practices, if that's what you're asking. I thought that the 3 practices we had were really good in terms of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They were very specific to what each individual needed to work on and grow at. A lot of competitive reps, a lot of what we call group periods where we work on individual things, and they're safer in individual units than they are in 11-11, but we did a lot of 11-11 as well and tried to develop the depth in our roster, knowing that moving forward we're going to have to play some of these guys.
All right, let's go to Dean Legge and then Mark Weiser.
This will be the first time y'all play in some sort of weather. It's supposed to be 50 degrees. when y'all go up there? How do you get ready for that? Can y'all simulate cold weather indoors?
Only to a certain extent. I mean, we can get it cold in there, but I mean, some of that's going to be controlled by what the temperature is outside, in terms of being able to cool it down some in the indoor or not. But yeah, I mean, we've practiced in the weather, so I mean, we've had rainy days, we've been outside, we've had misty days, we've had wet ball practices. So we try to prepare the week for what we think we're going to play in to the degree that we can control that, and those are outside factors that we don't control. So we really try to focus on us and telling our guys that the outcome's going to be determined by what we do, not by what the weatherman does.
Kirby, I wonder if you could elaborate on a comment you made on the SEC call Wednesday about the offense. You'd said that we can't get in a boat race where we're trying to outscore people. We got to play our brand of football, help Stetson with the people around him. What do you consider your brand of football now?
Well, it's what the defense gives you. If they're playing man-to-man, and then we got to be able to take shots and make plays. If they're playing off coverage and they're giving us RPOs, got to be able to take it. If they're taking chances on the run and we got to play action them to get on top, you got to be able to do it. I mean, it never changes. I think you guys want a perfect answer. It's really a lot more about what are you good at and what can we do better than they do. Balance is always important, but balance is not 50-50. And when you look across the league, the teams that are able to run the ball and play action pass and do those things are the ones that are most successful, regardless of the total number of points and the total number of yards and all the different statistics. It's don't turn it over. You got to have an ability to run the ball, and you really need an ability to run the ball when you got a quarterback who's still developing and still young and doesn't have the experience of a guy that maybe has. You got to be able to run the ball, and you got to be able to help them in regards to doing that.
All right, let's go to Jake Rowe and then Mike Griffith.
Hey, Kirby. When you look at your wide receiver rotation at this point, it seems like you guys have kind of settled in, at least the past couple games, with the same three guys getting most of the reps, kind of like I guess you did in 2017. Is that indicative of those three guys just kind of separating themselves, or a group of guys separating themselves, or is that because you may be dealing with a few injuries at that spot?
Well, we've had injuries in recent weeks, and we've got some young guys that are growing. I think Marcus Rosen is a guy who's really come along and done some nice things that we're hoping to grow his role and get him developed. And some of those guys have been injured. Matt was banged up with an injury and has been dealing with the shoulder, and hopefully he's back. D-Rob's played some to spell Kieris, some being able to rotate in there. But, we're always going to play the guys that give us the best chance to win. And if that's six guys, then that's six guys. And if that's three guys, then that's three guys.
Yeah, Coach, just a couple quick questions. One, you referenced on your coach's show about the early starts, and that certain off the record indicates that has not been the forte of Georgia football under your tenure, the 12 o'clock SEC kickoffs. And then also the quarterback situation after having a week to assess those guys. What's the best way to describe that?
Yeah, I'm excited about all those guys. I thought they had great off-week work. They competed. Those guys continue to get better, and we gave those guys a lot of reps during the off-week. As far as the start times, we don't control it.
Let's go to
any strategy maybe to how you might approach it a little bit differently in hindsight of some of the results of the noon kickoffs and SEC games, or anything special you'll do to try and get the guys going?
I don't think so. I mean, biggest thing is that we got to do a great job preparing for Kentucky, and regardless of the start time, we do different stuff every time we play at noon. So, I mean, it's not like there's a magic wand you wave. Your team's got to do a good job of preparing mentally for 12 o'clock kickoff. I mean, the NFL starts at noon or 1 o'clock most games, so it's not something that they shouldn't be aware of or used to. It's just it is what it is, and you got to do a good job being ready to go out there mentally and be able to play, regardless of who's in the stands, regardless of who we play, regardless of what time we play. We control what we do, and we control our mindset. And if we do that well, then we have to go execute and play well.
All right, let's go to Seth Emerson and then Brandon Sudge.
Kirby, I had the same question as Mark on the brand comment. As far as playing to an identity, finding an identity on offense, has that been a little bit tougher with everything that's happened, whether it's no spring practice, Newman opting out, all the new starters on offense? Is it still a little bit of kind of adjustment period?
I think it's a little bit based on the defenses you play. I don't think that you solely control what your identity is, just yourself. Some of that is created through playing in games, who's healthy, what you're capable of, what they play against you. How defenses play us sometimes determine where we run the ball, which run plays we run, how much we run. A lot of that's dictated by that. And I think the identity that you want to have is you want to be balanced. You want to be able to throw the ball when you want to throw the ball and run the ball when you want to run the ball. And those things are important to being successful, just like on defense, being able to dictate to them what you do. It's not real complicated, but sometimes it's hard to do because the other team makes it complicated.
Hey, Kirby, in terms of special teams and everything, and so with Jake Camarda and the job that he's done and everything, did you ever see like a light bulb or anything that clicked on with him that was able to allow him to have improvements? And then also with him and Pod Westy, I mean, how are the two of those guys kind of a weapon in each of their duties, and how is Scott Cochran kind of allowed them to get there?
Well, both those guys are very talented, first and foremost, and they're great ambassadors for Georgia. I mean, Kamara and Pod are number one. They're great students. They're great kids. They work really hard at their trade. I would definitely say Kamara has become a weapon in terms of his ability to hit really long punts. I think we got to be careful that we don't outkick our coverage at times, and his distance has to match his hang, and he's got to hit his field zones, which he knows those things are important. But he is a weapon in terms of his leg strength. And when we knew about that, we knew that when we recruited him. It didn't necessarily always come out that way his freshman year. And I think anytime you punt as a freshman, you go through some growing pains. But since then, I think he's gotten better. I thought he was really good with his kickoffs against Alabama. And Pod has been pretty consistent. Would like for him to be a little more consistent with the field goals and make those. But he's a kid that knows the work he has to put in, and he works hard at it. Those guys have been good players for us.
All right, let's go to Mark Bradley, and then we'll go to the red and black, either Augusta or Austin. Mark?
Kirby, I know your favorite questions always involve Nick Saban, but I apologize. I'm going to ask one anyway. Coach Saban said last week that he now has come to believe that great defenses will no longer stop great offenses. And he referenced your game with Alabama as an example of that. Do you feel the paradigm has shifted that much, and do you feel that the team with the better offense is now going to be the team that wins championships?
I think if you look at recent history, elite offenses have certainly done well in the playoffs and really won most of the championships. If you look across the board at the biggest offensive numbers and kind of the output of those offensive numbers, whether it be Clemson, whether it be Alabama, or whether it be LSU, I would argue that each one of those teams had pretty good defenses. So it's not a clear-cut question. It's not a clear-cut answer. It's not easy to say this or that. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But scoring offense and being able to score points is a tremendous factor. And a lot of the offenses have been ahead of the really good offenses have been ahead of the really good defenses. I don't disagree with that. But I think if you look across the board, there are some teams out there that have really dynamic offenses that don't have defenses, and they struggle. They struggle when they go play really good teams anyway. So you're really looking to have both. But I do respect that Clemson's won championships with good defenses, and Alabama, even when they won theirs, they beat us. They had a dynamic offense, but they had good defense. And then when you go to LSU last year, nobody even talks about their defense, but they obviously had good defense too because they got players playing all over the NFL.
Thank you.
Hey, Kirby. You often emphasize the importance of physicality for each game. I mean, you already mentioned it earlier about Kentucky and their physicality that they bring. Do you feel from, that standpoint, from a physicality standpoint, that the offense and the offensive line specifically is doing enough to find success running the ball? Or is the reason for the low rushing total so far this season more about execution as a whole?
No, I would say it's probably more about opportunities. I mean, I feel like we've got the ability to run the ball well. We did probably the poorest performance we had in terms of rushing the ball was the Arkansas game. And, we've come a long way since then. That number still factors in there because of the number of games we've played. But I'll tell you this, Kentucky is as physical a front that we have played, and it showed last year. I mean, they were really physical up front. They always have been. They build their defense around that. They do a great job across the offensive and defensive lines, and that's what makes them tough to play. They don't give up a lot of points on defense. They really play well, and they play physical, and they've done a great job of that. So for us, that's a great challenge for our offensive line to go against one of the bigger defensive lines that we'll ever play, in terms of moving them and being able to create run game.
Let's go to Charles Odom and then Jeff Schultz.
I'm good, Clark. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, Kirby, spinning off one of your earlier answers, in terms of as an offense, you try to figure out what you're good at, and then you go and you attack your opponent. I don't mean this question to sound as abrupt as it's going to sound, but what in your mind are you guys really good at offensively? And what do you believe that you need to get better at specifically?
I think the best thing we do right now offensively is third down execution and being able to execute on third down and convert. I think that's been a point of emphasis for us in practices, to convert third downs, put together a good third down plan. Play action passes, which a lot of those shots and overs and different things off of the run game we've been able to hit. And if you're going to do those, you got to be committed to the run. You got to show the presence. It's not that you have to be always successful at the run. You've got to be committed enough to the run game to be able to hit shots off of those play actions. And I think when you watch the best teams on Saturday that they're able to run the ball, they have play action shots off of it. That's what we've been able to utilize the tight end down the middle off of play action. We've been able to use some of our wheel routes that we hit Jermaine Burton on the other day off of our play action. So the play action game and third down would be the things that we've done well. I think the more important thing for us to continue to improve on is the ability to run the ball inside and outside to create balance and decision making in terms of not turning the ball over.
Okay, let's go to David Pascal and then Connor Riley.
Hey, Kirby, I don't know what kind of sample size you got because Kentucky didn't have a ton of offensive plays this past weekend, but can you tell a difference when Gatewood's in compared to Wilson? I know Gatewood's a bigger kid, but they each have a running element.
Yeah, they both have a running element. They really fit the style of offense that Eddie's been using for a while really well in terms of what they want to do and how they dictate to you the run game. I think when you look across the last couple of years, if you ask anybody in our league, not statistically, not looking at what you guys would look at in terms of just numbers, their physicality up front has been very evident. And when you go back and watch our last couple of years games against them, just us individually, their offensive line is extremely physical, and we haven't tackled well. I don't know if you give them credit for that, for the athletes they've had, whether it was Lynn Bowden or Terry the year before, or just the fact they block you and they get a lot of one-on-one tackles. That they've done a really good job in terms of being physical at the line of scrimmage. And both those quarterbacks present issues in terms of contain, how you play people outside when you're playing against them. And they've always done a good job of that.
Thank you.
Hey, Kirby, with your defense, what was sort of their mindset and how do you think they sort of practiced last week coming off the Alabama game where they had a lot of success against you guys? And where do you think your defense is headed into Kentucky?
They're in a good place. I mean, they each one individually got some goals and things to work on. They worked really hard on those things. We understand that when you play a team like Alabama, there's going to be matchups that are one-on-one, and we lost too many of those. So the goal is to get better. Like how do you lose less of them? How do you lose less one-on-one matchups? Well, you go back to the drawing board, you work your tail off, you get better at tackling. I mean, when you watch teams fundamentally across the country, we're trying to say that we're going to out fundamentally you. We're going to get off blocks, and we're going to strike people, and we're going to tackle people better than the people across from us. There's no magic potion for it. I mean, you watch the defenses, people are playing the same defenses. It's who can do it better.
Okay, we got time for 2 more questions. Anybody want to jump in?
Coach Smart, how much do you think Stetson Bennett benefited from learning from Jake Fromm off the field in terms of film preparation, things like that during his time at Georgia before?
I think it helped tremendously. I think Coach Monken and those guys, our offensive staff, put together a plan for the quarterbacks. It might not be the same as Jake's in terms of weekly preparation, but Monday I'm going to watch this. Tuesday I'm going to watch this. Wednesday I'm going to watch this. And all the quarterbacks besides Stetson, they all come in and watch those things. And that's a position that requires a lot more in terms of dedication and time commitment. And Jake did a great job of doing that, but these guys now are all doing it under a different, little different protocol.
Last question, anybody?
Hey, Kirby, with the bye week, you said that, all your quarterbacks, got reps. Given how the Bama game looked, is Stetson still your guy? Are you still evaluating other guys? Kind of how are you in that?
Yeah, we're always evaluating guys. It doesn't change. Y'all can keep asking the questions, but we're always evaluating guys at quarterback, and they're always trying to get better, growing their game. Stetson's still repping with the ones, taking reps. We got other guys reps, and that was what you do in an offense. You try to grow your team and get them better. But at the same time, we're trying to create continuity, trying to get better as a team and a unit. And, you don't base your season on one game. You base your season on what gives you the best chance to get better. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to look at it as, like, what do we have to do to get our team from point A to point B? And that's growth. That's competition. And every position has that. It doesn't change at quarterback. It's what you need to get better. And it's what we're going to continue to do this week.